The metal floor was cold against Maya's bare feet as she pressed herself against the corner of the cage. The alien ship hummed with an otherworldly frequency that made her teeth ache. 3 days had passed since the Crocon raiders had torn her from the research station on Europa. 3 days of floating through space in what looked like a flying zoo. Maya Chen had been a xenobiologist studying ice samples when the attack came. The station's defenses crumbled like paper before the Crocon assault ships. She watched through the observation deck as her colleagues were either vaporized or dragged away screaming. The creatures that took her stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in coarse brown fur with elongated arms that dragged on the ground. Their faces were a nightmarish blend of gorilla and wolf, with yellow fangs that dripped constantly. Now she sat in a cramped cage barely large enough for her to stand upright. The Crocons had stripped her of everything except her basic clothing. Around her, dozens of other cages held creatures from across the galaxy. A blue-skinned humanoid with gills sobbed quietly in the cage to her left. Across the narrow walkway, something that looked like a cross between an octopus and a bird clicked its beak rhythmically against the bars. The cargo hold reeked of fear, unwashed bodies, and something else Maya couldn't identify. The Crocons fed them once a day with a gray paste that tasted like cardboard mixed with metal shavings. Water came from a tube that extended through the bars, delivering just enough to keep them alive. Maya had tried everything she could think of. She'd attempted to pick the electronic lock using her hairpins, but the technology was completely alien. She'd tried reasoning with the guards when they made their rounds, but they either couldn't understand her or simply didn't care. Most of the time, they just grunted and moved on. The worst part was not knowing where they were taking her or what would happen when they arrived. The other prisoners seemed just as confused and terrified as she was. The blue-skinned being spoke in musical tones she couldn't understand. The octopus bird thing communicated through color changes across its skin, flashing patterns that meant nothing to her. On the 4th day, everything changed. Maya was dozing fitfully when alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in steady pulses, and she could hear the Crocon crew roaring commands at each other. The ship shuddered violently, throwing her against the cage bars. Through the small porthole near the ceiling, she could see streaks of light shooting past. They were under attack. The cargo hold shook again, harder this time. Several cages broke loose from their moorings and skidded across the floor. Maya gripped the bars of her cage as it tilted at a dangerous angle. The blue-skinned prisoner's cage had overturned completely, and the being inside was making high-pitched distress calls. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hold as Crocon guards rushed in. They were shouting in their guttural language, pointing weapons at the ceiling as if expecting something to break through. Maya could smell their fear sweat, an acrid odor that cut through the usual stench of the cargo hold. One of the guards approached her cage, his yellow eyes wide with panic. He jabbed a clawed finger at her and barked something in Crocon. When she didn't respond, he reached for the cage lock. That's when the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in an eerie green glow. Through the porthole, Maya could see the attacking ships more clearly now. They were sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to flow through space like swimming creatures. As she watched, one of them latched onto the Crocon ship's hull with what looked like massive tentacles. The ship shook again, and this time Maya heard something that chilled her blood. Metal being torn apart. The attackers were cutting their way inside. The Crocon guards were in full panic now. They abandoned any pretense of guarding the prisoners and fled toward what Maya assumed was the bridge or some kind of defensive position. In their haste, one of them dropped a key card near her cage. Maya stretched her arm through the bars, her fingers barely touching the plastic rectangle. She could hear the sounds of battle getting closer, energy weapons discharged with sharp cracks, followed by the wet sounds of combat. Whatever was attacking the ship was winning. After what felt like an eternity, Her fingertips managed to drag the key card close enough to grab. Her hands shook as she held it up to the cage lock. The electronic reader beeped once, and the door clicked open. Freedom felt surreal after days of confinement. Maya stumbled out of the cage, her legs weak from lack of exercise. Around her, the other prisoners were rattling their cages, desperate for release. She looked at the key card in her hand. Whatever was happening on this ship, she couldn't just leave them. She moved from cage to cage, releasing each prisoner. The blue-skinned being grabbed her hand and said something in its musical language. Maya didn't understand the words, but the gratitude in its large, dark eyes was unmistakable. The octopus bird creature flashed rapid patterns of what she hoped were thanks across its skin. As she freed the last prisoner, a different sound reached her ears. Footsteps, but not the heavy tramping of Krokan boots. These were lighter, more purposeful. Multiple sets moving in formation. The cargo hold door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Through the smoke stepped figures that made Maya's breath catch in her throat. They looked like primates, but nothing like the brutal Krokans. These beings stood about 6 feet tall with lean, muscular builds. Their fur ranged from silver to deep black, and their faces held an intelligence that the Krokans completely lacked. They wore form-fitting armor that seemed to be made of the same organic material as their ships. The lead figure raised a weapon that looked more like a piece of living coral than a gun. When it spoke, Maya was shocked to hear words she could understand. "Prisoners of the Krokan raiders," the being said in accented but clear English. "You are now under the protection of the Simian Collective. You will not be harmed." Maya stepped forward slowly, her hands raised to show she meant no threat. "You speak English?" The lead being's dark eyes fixed on her with obvious interest. "You are human," it said. Not a question, but a statement. "I am Commander Zephyr of the liberation vessel Canopy's Edge. We monitored Krokan communications and learned they had taken captives from multiple species." Other members of Zephyr's team were already working to help the freed prisoners. They moved with practiced efficiency, checking injuries and distributing what looked like emergency supplies. Maya noticed that they handled each species differently, suggesting they knew the specific needs of various alien races. "How do you know about humans?" Maya asked. Zephyr's expression grew troubled. "Your species has a reputation in this sector. The Krokans have been particularly active in targeting human settlements recently. They believe humans possess certain qualities that make them valuable in the slave markets." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Slave markets. She had been cargo, nothing more. "But you're safe now," Zephyr continued, his voice gentler. "We've been tracking this particular raid ship for 3 cycles. The Krokan crew has been eliminated." As if to emphasize the point, several more Simian soldiers entered the cargo hold, dragging the bodies of Krokan guards. Maya recognized the one who had tried to unlock her cage. His throat had been torn open by what looked like claws. "What happens to us now?" asked one of the other former prisoners, a reptilian being whose translator device was apparently working. "You will be returned to your respective territories when possible," Zephyr replied. "However, the human presents a special case." Maya felt her stomach drop. "What do you mean, special case?" Zephyr exchanged glances with his soldiers before answering. "Human space is currently under siege by a Krokan fleet. Your colony worlds are falling one by one. We intercepted communications indicating that this raid was part of a larger operation to capture humans for some purpose we don't yet understand." The cargo hold suddenly felt very quiet, despite the dozen freed prisoners milling around. Maya processed this information slowly. "My home? Earth? Unknown," Zephyr admitted. "Our intelligence suggests the core human worlds are still holding, but the outer colonies—" He didn't finish the sentence. Maya closed her eyes, thinking of her parents back on Mars, her brother serving with the Colonial Defense Force. When she opened them again, she found Zephyr watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "There is something else," he said carefully. "The Krokan communications we intercepted mentioned humans having certain capabilities, abilities that other species lack. They seem to believe you possess some kind of power that can be harvested or utilized." "That's ridiculous," Maya said immediately. "Humans aren't special. We're not psychic or super strong or anything like that. We're just ordinary." But even as she said it, Maya remembered stories from the outer colonies, tales of human settlers surviving in conditions that should have killed them, reports of humans adapting to alien environments faster than any other known species. The research station on Europa had been studying extremophile organisms, life forms that thrived in impossible conditions. The project leader had often joked that humans were the ultimate extremophiles. Zephyr's expression suggested he knew more than he was saying. Perhaps, but the Krokans clearly believe otherwise. They wouldn't commit this many resources to capturing humans if they didn't expect significant returns. A younger Simian soldier approached and spoke to Zephyr in their own language. The commander nodded and turned back to Maya. "We need to move. Krokan reinforcements are heading this way, and our ship isn't built for extended combat. You'll come aboard the canopy's edge until we can determine the safest course of action." As they prepared to leave the cargo hold, Maya took one last look around the prison that had held her for 4 days. The other freed prisoners were being led toward different sections of the ship, presumably to be processed and eventually returned home. But she had no home to return to if what Zephyr said was true. The Simian ship was unlike anything Maya had ever seen. The corridors curved like tree branches, and the walls had a slightly organic texture that seemed to pulse with life. Bioluminescent strips provided soft, natural-looking light that was easy on the eyes after the harsh glare of the Krokan vessel. Zephyr led her to what appeared to be a medical bay, where a female simian with intricate braided fur began scanning her with devices Maya didn't recognize. "Dr. Kayla is our xenobiologist," Zephyr explained. "She needs to ensure you haven't been exposed to any Krokan biotoxins." As the examination proceeded, Maya found herself studying her rescuers more closely. The simians moved with a fluid grace that reminded her of gymnasts. Their hands were almost human-like, but with longer fingers and subtle claws. Most interesting were their eyes, which held a depth of intelligence that made her feel they were seeing more than just her physical form. Dr. Kayla spoke to Zephyr in their language, her tone professional but with undertones Maya couldn't interpret. When she finished, Zephyr's expression had grown even more serious. "What is it?" Maya asked. "Dr. Kayla's scans show some unusual readings," Zephyr said slowly. "Your neural activity is significantly higher than baseline for your species, and there are traces of quantum resonance patterns we've never seen in biological organisms." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "What does that mean?" "We don't know yet," Zephyr admitted, "but it may explain why the Krokans are so interested in capturing humans. If your entire species carries these quantum signatures—" He didn't need to finish. Maya could imagine the implications. If humans really did possess some kind of unique ability, they would become the most valuable commodity in the galaxy. Every faction would want to capture, study, or exploit them. The ship shuddered as they dropped out of whatever FTL drive they had been using. Through a nearby viewport, Maya could see they were approaching what looked like a massive space station constructed inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Ships of various sizes moved in and out of docking bays carved into the rock face. "Welcome to Arbor Station," Zephyr said. "The primary base of the Simian Collective in this sector. You'll be safe here while we decide what to do next." As their ship moved toward one of the docking bays, Maya caught sight of something that made her heart race. In the distance, barely visible against the starfield, were the distinctive angular hulls of Krokan warships. A lot of them. They followed us, she said quietly. Zephyr followed her gaze and his jaw tightened. No, they were already here. This is an invasion fleet. The implications hit Maya like a sledgehammer. Arbor Station was under attack, and she was apparently one of the prizes the Crocons had come to claim. Whatever was special about humans, it was important enough to start a war over. As their ship docked with mechanical precision, Maya realized that her ordeal as a prisoner had only been the beginning. The real test was about to start, and somehow she suspected that the fate of not just herself but possibly all of humanity might hang in the balance. The station's corridors were filled with the organized chaos of a military base preparing for siege. Simian soldiers moved with purpose, checking weapons and armor. Civilians were being evacuated to deeper sections of the asteroid. Through it all, Maya found herself at the center of attention she didn't want and couldn't understand. Whatever power the aliens thought she possessed, she was about to find out if it was real. Because ready or not, the Crocans were coming for her, and this time there might be nowhere to run. Maya had been on Arbor Station for exactly 6 hours when the first Crocan assault wave hit. The asteroid shook like an earthquake was tearing it apart from the inside. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in pulsing red as Simian defenders rushed to their positions. Through the thick observation windows, Maya could see the space battle raging outside. Crocan ships poured plasma fire into the station's shields, while Simian vessels darted between them like angry wasps. Commander Zephyr had assigned her quarters deep in the station's core, supposedly the safest place during an attack. But Maya couldn't just sit there while people fought and died around her. She had spent her life studying alien life forms, adapting to hostile environments, solving problems that others said were impossible. Hiding felt wrong. Dr. Kayla burst into her quarters without knocking, her usually neat fur disheveled and her dark eyes wide with urgency. "Maya, we need to move you to the emergency bunkers," she said breathlessly. "The Crocans have broken through the outer defenses. They're boarding the station." "No," Maya said firmly, standing up from the simple cot where she'd been sitting. "I'm not hiding anymore. Whatever they want from me, running isn't going to solve anything." Dr. Kayla's ears flattened against her skull, a sign of distress Maya had learned to recognize. "You don't understand. The Crocan forces aren't just trying to capture the station. They're specifically hunting for you. Our intercepted communications show they're willing to sacrifice thousands of soldiers to get you back." The weight of that statement settled on Maya's shoulders. People were dying because of her. Because of something about her that she didn't even understand. "Then let me help," Maya said. "I'm a xenobiologist. I understand alien physiology, environmental adaptation, problem-solving under pressure. I can't fight with weapons, but maybe I can find another way to be useful." Before Dr. Kayla could respond, the station's intercom crackled to life. Commander Zephyr's voice echoed through the corridors, strained but determined. "All personnel to defensive positions. Crocan boarding parties have breached sectors 7 through 12. Repeat, we have hostile forces inside the station." Dr. Kayla grabbed Maya's arm with surprising strength. "The laboratory level. If we're going to figure out what makes you special to them, we need to do it now, before they reach us." They raced through corridors filled with organized chaos. Simian soldiers rushed past carrying weapons and medical supplies. Families with young ones hurried toward the deeper bunkers. The air tasted of ozone and fear. The laboratory level was a marvel of alien engineering. Organic-looking computers grew from the walls like coral formations. Microscopes that resembled flowering plants focused beams of light that revealed molecular structures in three-dimensional detail. Dr. Kayla led Maya to a scanning chamber that looked like the inside of a giant seed pod. "We don't have much time," Dr. Kayla said, her fingers dancing over controls that pulsed with bioluminescent light. "The readings we got earlier were preliminary. This will show us exactly what makes your neural pattern so unusual." Maya stepped into the scanner, trying to ignore the sound of explosions getting closer. The device hummed to life around her, and she felt a strange tingling sensation across her skin. Dr. Kayla's expression changed as data flowed across her organic displays. Her eyes widened, then narrowed as she studied the readings more carefully. "This is impossible," she whispered. "What? What do you see?" "Your brain, it's processing quantum information, not just receiving it, but actively manipulating quantum states on a microscopic level. Every thought you have creates ripples in space-time itself." Maya felt dizzy. "That's scientifically impossible. Human brains are biological computers. We can't affect quantum mechanics just by thinking." "Apparently you can." Dr. Kayla pulled up another display showing Maya's neural activity in real time. "Look at this pattern. Every time you problem solve or adapt to a new situation, your brain creates quantum resonance cascades. It's like you're unconsciously reaching into probability streams and selecting the outcomes you need." The explanation hit Maya like a thunderbolt. All those times she'd survived situations that should have killed her. The way she always seemed to find solutions when others gave up. Her uncanny ability to adapt to alien environments faster than anyone else on her research team. "The extremophiles," she said suddenly. "What?" "On Europa, we were studying extremophile organisms. Life forms that thrive in impossible conditions by somehow manipulating their environment at the quantum level. What if humans aren't just studying extremophiles? What if we are extremophiles?" Dr. Kayla's ears perked up with excitement, despite the danger around them. "A species that evolved quantum consciousness as a survival mechanism. It would explain why humans spread so fast across the galaxy compared to other species. You don't just adapt to environments, you unconsciously alter probability to make environments adapt to you." A massive explosion shook the laboratory, and several of the organic computers flickered and died. Through the lab's transparent walls, Maya could see Krokan soldiers moving through the corridors. They were getting close. "But why would the Krokans want to capture humans if we have these abilities?" Maya asked. Dr. Kayla's expression darkened. "Because they've figured out how to harvest quantum consciousness and use it to power their technology. Every human they capture gets connected to their fleet's navigation systems. Your people's ability to manipulate probability makes their ships nearly impossible to destroy in combat." The horror of it crashed over Maya. Humans were being turned into living computers, their quantum abilities exploited to make Krokan forces invincible. No wonder they were winning the war. "How many humans have they captured?" "Based on our intelligence, thousands, possibly tens of thousands. Each one makes their fleet stronger." The laboratory door exploded inward in a shower of organic debris. 3 Krokan soldiers stormed in, their yellow eyes immediately fixing on Maya. Their translator devices crackled to life. "Human female, you will come with us willingly or we will drag you," the lead Krokan growled. Maya stepped protectively in front of Dr. Kayla, her mind racing. For the first time in her life, she tried to consciously access whatever quantum abilities she supposedly possessed. She focused on the probability that she could find a way out of this situation. Something shifted. The sensation was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. It was as if she could suddenly see multiple versions of the next few seconds playing out simultaneously. In one version, the Krokans stunned both her and Dr. Kayla. In another, simian reinforcements arrived just in time. In a third, the laboratory's automated defenses activated. Without fully understanding how she did it, Maya reached out with her mind and nudged probability toward the outcome she wanted. The Krokan soldiers raised their weapons just as every piece of equipment in the laboratory began screaming alarms. Emergency containment fields activated, trapping the intruders in force barriers. Automated defense turrets dropped from the ceiling and trained their barrels on the confused Krokans. Dr. Kayla stared at Maya in amazement. "Did you just I think so. Maya felt drained, as if she'd run a marathon. But I don't think I can do it again anytime soon. Commander Zephyr's voice echoed through the facility again, but this time with a note of desperate urgency. All units fall back to the core levels. Repeat, full retreat to defensive positions. They've taken the outer rings. Dr. Kayla grabbed a portable scanner and several data crystals from her destroyed workstation. We need to get this information to the collective's high command. If we can understand how human quantum consciousness works, maybe we can find a way to counter the Krokan advantage. They left the trapped Krokan soldiers behind and raced deeper into the station. The corridors here were older, carved directly from the asteroid's rock with simian biotechnology that had grown into the stone like roots. Wounded defenders were being carried to medical stations. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of battle. As they descended, Maya began to notice something strange. The station's bioluminescent lighting systems were responding to her presence, growing brighter as she approached and dimming after she passed. The organic computers in wall alcoves chirped and whistled when she walked by. "Dr. Kayla," she said carefully, "is the station's biotechnology reacting to me?" The simian scientist paused to look around, her expression thoughtful. "Simian biotech is designed to respond to quantum fluctuations. If your consciousness really does manipulate quantum states, then I'm accidentally interfacing with your computers. More than that, you might be able to control them." They reached the command center just as another wave of explosions rocked the station. The central chamber was a fusion of organic and technological design, with simian officers working at stations that grew from the floor like mushrooms. Holographic displays showed the tactical situation, and it wasn't good. Krokan forces had captured nearly 70% of the station. Commander Zephyr looked up as they entered, his face grim but determined. "Dr. Kayla, please tell me you learned something useful before we lose the lab level entirely." "More than useful, Commander. Maya can manipulate quantum probability and she can interface with our biosystems. She might be able to turn this battle around." Zephyr's dark eyes fixed on Maya with new intensity. "Explain." Maya stepped forward, feeling the weight of everyone's expectations. "I can see multiple probability outcomes and influence which one becomes reality. It's exhausting and I'm still learning how to control it, but I think I can help. The station's biocomputers are all connected through quantum entanglement networks," Dr. Kayla added. "If Maya can access that network, she could potentially coordinate our defenses better than any tactical AI." Around the command center, simian officers were listening with expressions ranging from hope to skepticism. Maya couldn't blame them. She was having trouble believing it herself. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Zephyr gestured to a bio-interface station in the center of the room. It looked like a throne made of living wood, with tendrils that would connect to the user's nervous system. "Our bio-interfaces are designed for simian physiology, but Dr. Kayla's scans suggest you might be compatible. If you can link with the station's quantum network, you could see the entire battle from multiple perspectives simultaneously." Maya approached the bio-interface cautiously. The organic tendrils moved slightly as she got closer, as if they were aware of her presence. "There are risks," Dr. Kayla warned. "Linking human consciousness with simian biotechnology has never been attempted. The quantum feedback could damage your mind permanently. And if I don't try, the Krokans take the station and eventually capture or kill everyone here anyway," Maya replied, "including me." She settled into the bio-interface before she could lose her nerve. The organic tendrils extended toward her, making contact with points along her spine and the base of her skull. The sensation was strange, but not unpleasant, like being gently embraced by warm vines. Then the connection activated, and Maya's consciousness exploded outward. Suddenly, she could see through every sensor in the station simultaneously. Krokan boarding parties moving through the corridors. Simian defenders taking positions at choke points. The space battle raging outside the asteroid. It was overwhelming at first, like trying to watch 100 movies at once, but gradually her quantum-enhanced consciousness began to make sense of it all. She could see the patterns, the probabilities, the decision trees branching out from each moment. More importantly, she could influence them. Maya reached out through the bio-network and began coordinating the defense in ways that seemed impossible. She rerouted power to weapons just as defenders needed them. She sealed blast doors a split second before Krokan explosives went off, redirecting the force back on the attackers. She activated automated defenses that had been dormant for years, awakening the station's full potential. The change in the battle's momentum was immediately apparent. Krokan forces that had been steadily advancing suddenly found themselves trapped in crossfires. Their communication networks began experiencing mysterious failures at crucial moments. Simian defenders started anticipating enemy moves with uncanny accuracy. But the effort was taking its toll on Maya. She could feel her consciousness being stretched across quantum dimensions that human minds weren't designed to access. Each probability manipulation sent waves of exhaustion through her nervous system. "Maya, your neural activity is approaching dangerous levels," Dr. Kayla warned from somewhere that felt very far away. Maya tried to respond, but found she couldn't remember how to speak. She existed in multiple probability streams simultaneously now, experiencing dozens of potential outcomes for each second of the battle. In some streams, the station fell. In others, the Krokans retreated. In a few, everyone died. She focused on the probability streams where they won, using every ounce of will to nudge reality toward those outcomes. Krokan soldiers slipped on debris that hadn't been there moments before. Their weapons jammed at critical moments. Simian reinforcements arrived exactly when and where they were needed most. The Krokan commander's voice echoed through captured sections of the station, speaking in accented English. "Human female, we know you are manipulating the battle. Surrender yourself, and we will spare the Simian forces. Continue to resist, and we will execute every prisoner we have taken." Maya felt herself pulled back toward her physical body by the threat. Through the station's sensors, she could see the Krokan prisoners, Simian civilians and wounded defenders who had been captured during the initial assault. The Krokans had them lined up in one of the cargo bays, weapons pointed at their heads. "Don't listen to them," Commander Zephyr said through the bio-link. "They'll kill the prisoners regardless of what you do." But Maya was already reaching out through the quantum network, searching for a solution that would save everyone. The probability streams were incredibly complex now, branching and rebranching with each decision. She needed to find the narrow path where the Krokans were defeated and their prisoners survived. There. She could see it. A single probability thread where everything worked out, but it required perfect timing and coordination across multiple systems simultaneously. Maya gathered her remaining strength and pushed her consciousness deeper into the station's bio-network than she had ever gone before. She felt herself becoming part of the asteroid itself. Every circuit and conduit an extension of her nervous system. The counterattack began with subtle changes. Gravity generators in Krokan-held sections fluctuated, making their soldiers disoriented. Atmospheric processors began flooding certain areas with harmless but sleep-inducing gases. Emergency bulkheads activated in precise sequences, cutting off Krokan escape routes while opening paths for Simian forces. But the masterstroke came when Maya accessed the station's external defense systems, massive biomechanical cannons that had been buried in the asteroid's surface for centuries awakened at her command. They emerged like flowering plants reaching for the sun, their organic targeting systems locking onto the Krokan fleet with perfect accuracy. The first volley caught the Krokan ships completely by surprise. Bioplasma charges that could adapt their destructive patterns in real time tore through Krokan shields as if they weren't there. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before began breaking apart and burning. In the cargo bay, the Krokan guards were so shocked by their fleet's sudden reversal that they hesitated for just a moment. That moment was all the Simian prisoners needed. The cargo bay's automated systems, under Maya's control, activated restraining fields that trapped the guards while freeing their captives. The battle turned into a rout. Krokan forces that had been advancing steadily through the station found themselves cut off, outflanked, and overwhelmed. Their ships in space were being systematically destroyed by weapons they couldn't even see coming. Within an hour, it was over. Maya tried to disconnect from the bio-interface but found herself stuck in the quantum network. Her consciousness had become so intertwined with the station's systems that she couldn't remember where her mind ended and the biotechnology began. Panic set in as she realized what was happening. The quantum manipulation had changed her on a fundamental level. She was becoming something more than human, but she might lose her humanity in the process. "Help me," she whispered through the bio-link to Dr. Kayla. "We're trying," the simian scientist replied, her voice tight with concern. "Your neural patterns are stabilizing, but at a much higher quantum resonance than normal. You've evolved, Maya. The question is whether you can still exist in a normal biological form." Maya fought to pull her scattered consciousness back together. To remember what it felt like to be contained in a single human body. It was like trying to pour an ocean into a teacup, but gradually she managed to compress herself back into something approaching normal human awareness. When her eyes finally opened in the command center, she found herself surrounded by simian officers staring at her with expressions of awe and concern. "How do you feel?" Dr. Kayla asked, running scanners over her without waiting for permission. Maya tried to speak and was relieved to hear her own voice again. "Different. Like I've been stretched and compressed at the same time. Did we win?" Commander Zephyr nodded grimly. "The immediate battle, yes. The Krokan assault force has been destroyed, but this was just one fleet. When they don't report back, more will come. And now they know exactly what humans are capable of." The implications settled over Maya like a cold blanket. Her demonstration of power had saved Arbor Station, but it had also revealed humanity's true potential to their enemies. The war was far from over. In fact, it had probably just escalated to a whole new level. 3 weeks after the battle at Arbor Station, Maya stood on the bridge of the Simian Dreadnought World Tree, watching human space burn. Through the massive bioorganic viewports, she could see the aftermath of the Krokan response to their defeat. 17 human colonies had been attacked simultaneously in what the enemy called the Great Harvest. Millions of her people had been captured and connected to Krokan quantum networks, their consciousness enslaved to power an unstoppable war machine. The irony wasn't lost on her. By revealing humanity's true potential, she had made her entire species a target for systematic exploitation. "The Kepler colony is gone," reported Lieutenant Thane, a young simian officer whose silver fur had turned prematurely gray from the stress of constant battle. "Krokan harvest ships jumped out an hour ago. Population of 4 million reduced to less than 50,000 survivors." Maya closed her eyes, feeling each loss like a physical wound. Since linking with the station's bio-network, her quantum consciousness had become more sensitive to the suffering of others. She could feel the terror and despair of captured humans across the galaxy, their minds crying out as they were forced into quantum servitude. Commander Zephyr approached from the tactical station, his expression grim but determined. In the weeks since Arbor Station, he had become more than her protector. He was now her partner in a desperate campaign to save both their species from Krokan domination. "The Collective's High Command has approved your proposal," he said quietly. "Operation Liberation will begin in 6 hours." Maya nodded, though part of her wondered if they were already too late. The plan she had developed was ambitious to the point of being suicidal. Instead of fighting the Krokan fleets ship by ship, they would strike directly at the heart of the enemy's power, the quantum processing stations where captured humans were being held. Dr. Kayla approached from her mobile laboratory, carrying a device that looked like a cross between a brain scanner and a flowering plant. Over the past weeks, she had been working to understand and amplify Maya's quantum abilities. "The neural interface is ready," she announced, "but I have to warn you again about the risks. What you're planning to attempt has never been done before. Linking your consciousness across interstellar distances while maintaining quantum coherence, the feedback could kill you. If I don't try, the Krokans will eventually capture every human in the galaxy," Maya replied. "At least this way we have a chance." The plan was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its scope. Using the simian bio-network as an amplifier, Maya would project her consciousness across space to make contact with the captured humans. If she could reach them through the quantum connections the Krokans had forced on them, she might be able to teach them to resist, to fight back from within the enemy systems. The World Tree's Bio-Neural Center was a cathedral of living technology. Massive organic processors grew from the floor like ancient trees, their bioluminescent networks pulsing with the thoughts and dreams of the ship's crew. At the center stood an enhanced bio-interface, modified specifically for Maya's unique neural patterns. As she approached the interface, Maya felt the familiar stirring of quantum awareness. The living ship's consciousness touched the edges of her mind, offering its support and strength for what was to come. "Remember," Commander Zephyr said as she settled into the interface, "you don't have to save everyone at once. Start small, establish contact with a few processing stations, and work your way up." Maya smiled at him, grateful for his concern, but knowing that small measures wouldn't be enough. The Krokans were processing humans faster than anyone could mount individual rescue missions. This had to be all or nothing. The bio-interface tendrils connected with her nervous system, and immediately Maya felt her consciousness begin to expand. But this time was different. Instead of spreading through a single station, she was reaching across the vastness of space itself, following the quantum threads that connected all conscious beings. The first human minds she encountered were in a processing station orbiting a dead world 3 sectors away. Thousands of people suspended in biomechanical pods, their consciousness harvested to power Krokan navigation systems. Maya felt their despair, their gradual loss of individual identity as they were forced to think as one mind. But she also felt something else: resistance. Even in their enslaved state, these humans were fighting back in small ways. Some maintained secret corners of their minds that the Krokans couldn't access. Others deliberately introduced tiny errors into calculations, hoping to sabotage enemy operations without being detected. Maya reached out to them through the quantum network, her presence like a warm light in the darkness of their captivity. "I'm here," she projected to them. "You're not alone. We're going to get you out." The response was overwhelming. Thousands of voices crying out in relief, in hope, in desperate gratitude. But underneath the emotion, Maya sensed something that made her quantum heart race with excitement. These humans, under extreme pressure and connected to alien technology, had begun developing their own enhanced consciousness. They were evolving. "Listen to me," Maya projected to the captured humans. "The Krokans think they're using you as living computers. But you're more than that. Your consciousness is adapting, growing stronger. I'm going to teach you how to turn their own technology against them." Working through the quantum network, Maya began showing the captive humans how to access their enhanced abilities consciously. She taught them to see probability streams, to nudge quantum outcomes in subtle ways. Most importantly, she showed them how to work together, combining their consciousness into something greater than the sum of its parts. The effect was immediate and dramatic. In the processing station Maya was connected to, Krokan technicians suddenly found their systems experiencing cascading failures. Navigation computers began providing false coordinates. Weapons targeting systems developed mysterious glitches. Communication networks started broadcasting random signals. But Maya wasn't stopping with one station. Her consciousness stretched across the galaxy, seeking out every installation where humans were being held. One by one, she made contact, spreading the knowledge of quantum resistance like a virus through the Krokan network. The enemy's response was swift and brutal. Krokan overseers began executing captured humans at random, trying to terrorize the rest into submission. But instead of breaking the resistance, the executions only strengthened it. The dying humans used their final moments to transfer their quantum patterns to their surviving fellows, making the collective consciousness stronger. Maya felt each death as if it were her own, but she also felt the growing power of her people's united will. Across dozens of star systems, processing stations began shutting down as their human components turned from slaves into saboteurs. Through the expanding network of awakened humans, Maya became aware of something that chilled her quantum soul. The Krokans had a final solution prepared for exactly this scenario. If they couldn't control their human slaves, they would destroy them all at once using a quantum cascade weapon that would burn out every enhanced consciousness in the galaxy. The weapon was already charging at the primary Krokan command station, a massive installation built inside a captured star system. In less than an hour, it would fire, killing every quantum-enhanced being within 1,000 light years. Maya made her decision without hesitation. Instead of trying to disable the weapon from the outside, she would do something unprecedented. She would transfer her consciousness directly into the command station's network and confront the Krokan leadership face to face. The journey through quantum space was like traveling through liquid lightning. Maya felt her sense of individual identity stretching and warping as she moved across impossible distances in microseconds. When she materialized within the Krokan command network, she found herself in a digital landscape that resembled a vast industrial complex built from nightmares. Krokan minds were alien beyond anything she had ever encountered. Where human consciousness was chaotic and creative, theirs was rigid and hierarchical. They thought in terms of domination and consumption, with no concept of cooperation or growth. To them, other species were simply resources to be harvested. The Krokan Supreme Commander was a digital construct that towered over the virtual landscape like a mountain of dark crystal and jagged metal. When it became aware of Maya's presence, its attention fixed on her with the force of a collapsing star. "Human quantum consciousness," it rumbled in a voice like grinding stone. "You have come to witness the purification of your species. In 1 hour, every enhanced human in the galaxy will be eliminated. Your evolution ends here." Maya stood her ground in the digital realm, drawing strength from the network of awakened humans across space. "You're wrong. You can't destroy consciousness itself. Energy can't be created or destroyed, only transformed. Your philosophical babbling is irrelevant. The cascade weapon will burn away every quantum pattern your species has developed. You will return to being ordinary biological entities, suitable only for manual labor." But as the Supreme Commander spoke, Maya was already reaching out through the quantum network, making contact with every enhanced human consciousness in the galaxy. What she proposed to them was insane, impossible, and their only hope for survival. Instead of trying to escape the quantum cascade, they would embrace it. All of humanity's enhanced consciousness would merge at the moment of the weapon's firing, combining into a single quantum entity powerful enough to survive the purification and strike back. The response from her people was unanimous. Across the galaxy, millions of human minds began linking together, creating a quantum gestalt, the likes of which had never existed. Maya felt herself becoming the focal point of this collective consciousness. the conduit through which humanity's will would be expressed. The Cascade weapon fired, sending waves of destructive energy across space designed to burn away quantum consciousness like a forest fire. But instead of destroying the human collective, the energy was absorbed, transformed, and redirected. Maya felt herself growing beyond anything she had imagined possible. She was no longer just one person, but the living embodiment of human potential itself. Through her, the collective consciousness reached out across the galaxy with power that dwarfed anything the Krokans possessed. Krokan processing stations didn't just shut down, they transformed. Biomechanical pods opened to release their prisoners. But the freed humans didn't just escape. They ascended, their consciousness now permanently enhanced and connected to the galactic network Maya had helped create. Krokan ships found their weapons turning on each other as their quantum targeting systems came under human control. Communication networks designed to coordinate the enemy war machine instead broadcast messages of liberation to enslaved populations across the galaxy. But Maya's greatest act was personal. She reached across space to every Krokan mind in their empire and showed them what they had awakened. Humanity wasn't just another species to be harvested. They were quantum gardeners, beings capable of nurturing consciousness and growth wherever they went. "You thought you were harvesting us," Maya's voice echoed through every Krokan command center simultaneously. "But we were learning from you. Every connection you forced taught us more about ourselves. Every atrocity you committed made us stronger. You didn't enslave humanity. You helped us evolve." The Krokan Supreme Commander tried to fight back, pouring the full power of its digital fortress against Maya's presence. But it was like trying to destroy the ocean with a hammer. Maya wasn't just one consciousness anymore. She was the focused will of an entire species that had learned to transcend the boundaries of individual existence. "This is impossible," the Supreme Commander raged. "Consciousness cannot exist at this scale. You will fragment, dissolve, lose your individual identity." "That's where you're wrong," Maya replied, her voice now harmonized with millions of others. "We're not losing our individuality. We're discovering what it really means to be human together." With a thought that rippled across space-time itself, Maya and the human collective began dismantling the Krokan war machine from the inside out. Ships powered down and surrendered. Processing stations became centers of liberation. The Cascade weapon that was supposed to purify the galaxy instead became the catalyst for humanity's transformation into something greater than any single species had ever achieved. As the Krokan Empire crumbled, Maya felt herself being pulled back toward her individual consciousness. The collective was strong enough now to exist without her as a focal point. Each human who had been part of the Gestalt retained their enhanced abilities but also their personal identity. When Maya's awareness finally settled back into her physical body aboard the World Tree, she found Commander Zephyr and Dr. Kayla waiting anxiously beside the bio-interface. "Did it work?" Zephyr asked. Maya smiled, feeling the quantum threads that now connected her to every human in the galaxy. "Better than we hoped. The Krokan threat is over, but more importantly, humanity has taken its next evolutionary step. We're not just individuals anymore. We're a true collective consciousness while still maintaining our personal identity." Through the viewports, they could see Krokan ships across the sector powering down and broadcasting surrender signals. But that wasn't what filled Maya with hope for the future. It was the knowledge that somewhere among the stars, millions of liberated humans were reaching out to other species, offering to share the gift of enhanced consciousness that the Krokans had accidentally given them. The war was over, but humanity's real journey was just beginning. As Maya stood on the bridge of the World Tree, surrounded by simian allies who had helped make this victory possible, she realized that her kidnapping by the Krokans hadn't been a tragedy after all. It had been the first step in her species' transformation from isolated individuals to a galactic force for consciousness and growth. The girl who had been captured on Europa was gone, replaced by someone who carried the hopes and dreams of an entire species. Maya Chen had become something unprecedented, the first human to serve as a bridge between individual and collective consciousness, showing that evolution didn't have to mean the loss of self, but could instead mean the expansion of what it meant to be human. In the days that followed, as rescue ships spread across the galaxy to bring home the liberated humans, Maya began to understand the true scope of what they had accomplished. Humanity hadn't just defeated an enemy, they had discovered their true nature as a species designed not to conquer, but to elevate, not to dominate, but to inspire growth in others. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time since her capture, Maya was truly happy about that.